Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to FoundFlix. On this Inning Explained, we're looking at the brand new 7th entry in the Paranormal Activity franchise, Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. This time we follow a new ghoul, not Toby, as young Margot travels to a secluded Amish community with a documentary film crew in tow, seeking answers about her mother and extended family. I was definitely surprised by this next entry in the franchise. I know it was in the works for many years, but it still just seemed to kind of come out of nowhere. Oh, there you go, new Paranormal Activity movie. Hope you have Paramount Plus! When it comes to the big question at hand, how does this tie into the convoluted previous installments? It really doesn't, and I assume the idea is to draw in a whole new audience unfamiliar with the original films, but then I'm like, why even call it Paranormal Activity in the first place? Marketing, I guess. It's funny because despite the last one, Ghost Dimension, not being all that great, I really liked where it left our story, with our favorite ghost Toby finally getting a physical body. There's a lot more to mine from that in a new chapter, to push the franchise forward into a different kind of direction, but alas, Next of Kin switches up everything from the story and style, and follows another different yet ultimately quite similar entity that terrorizes our new crew. So at least in the sense of not tying back to that grander story, I can see why this is a disappointment to longtime fans. It's amusing as they're clearly so desperate to start anew, but then still enlisted longtime series writer Christopher Landon to pen the script, and this winds up making things feel a lot more familiar than you might expect. I saw this got destroyed by critics and fans alike, but for me, I'm kind of like, it's not that bad. The first 2/3 do have your basic found footage horror setup, and yeah, I agree, it's not a winner, but there is a formula here. Next of Kin actually feels like a kind of fast forward through all the standard beats of a Paranormal Activity movie, but to me, it's in the end that it truly shines. After sitting through the formulaic setup, the last 20 minutes or so was a welcome surprise, and it's probably one of the most batshit endings of the franchise. That for me was a win enough, and it also does get a bit confusing about what is really going on, and that is why I'm here, folks. So let's take a trip to the terrifying Amish country in Paranormal Activity Next of Kin, breaking down the story, what the Amish group is really all about, including their master Asmodeus, and explaining the ending that sets the stage for a much bigger spreading of evil. Unlike before, where we had some kind of camera around the house setup, this time we're presented with a documentary style, slightly different. Margot doesn't know anything about her family, and thanks to a random connection on 23andMe, she's able to meet her first biological relative, Samuel. He belongs to an Amish commune, and could be the one to give her the answers that she's seeking. Hence the point of the documentary. She admits it's maybe a bit egotistical making a documentary about herself, but her buddy and filmmaking aficionado Chris urged her to do it, believing the story is just too good. Well, if you say so, bud. Sam is a bit anxious being on camera, as they aren't really supposed to do that, and reveals that he left the community 7 months ago. They talk more about it with other friends, and Margot feels strangely compelled to find her real parents, especially because they gave her up. There's always been something missing to her because of this. She even has the surveillance footage from when she was dropped off at the hospital, and still has hundreds of questions regarding just why she would do this, and also strangely she looks like she's scared in the footage, but she has been unable to draw any real conclusions as of yet. They then arrive in Buffalo, New York, seeing that Chris has brought a shitload of camera equipment. Man, this kid does not mess around. Where to get the thousands of dollars all that stuff would cost? Either way, it'll definitely come in handy. They meet up with their eccentric sound guy Dale, who reveals right off the bat that he got COVID 5 times, but it's all good, he's still alive. Yeah, great for you, man. Pretty bad immunity system there. While he discusses the virtues of zip-off pants, they pass by their first sign of where they're headed. A horse and buggy going by. What in the hell is that thing? It's not a car, it's a horse pulling a buggy. By the time they make it to the community, there's no cell service naturally, and initially seeing the place, Margot deems it to be cute. Some residents come out thanks to the hubbub, including the group's leader Jacob. Sam tries to convince them to let Margot come in, but is shut down. Afterwards, Dale is confused, asking why they didn't call first, but it's pointed out that they couldn't do that, dingus. The Amish don't have phones. Alright. They hear strange noises emanating from the bathroom, and find the window open which they left closed. closed. A random kid, Eli, pops up, gasping, "What are you doing here?" "Yeah, how did you get here exactly, kid?" When they bring him back, suddenly Jacob has changed his tune and welcomes them in, apparently happy that they brought Sam back to his home. Margot is overwhelmed being here, wondering if she'll recognize any of her relatives, but we quickly see that the place harbors some secrets. At 2 in the morning, a group venture off mysteriously into the woods, and that's just the beginning. Things here aren't maybe quite as antiquated as they might think. Margot asking a young girl if she made her dress, and she corrects her she got it at Walmart, and asks if they're on TikTok. Oh no, the poison is spread here too! Sam offers to show them the rest of the grounds, and warns them to avoid the woods. There's bears out there. Chris brings up the people they saw, and he tells them, oh yeah, it was probably a hunting party. We learn they've been in the area for a lengthy period of 200 years, and then Margot broaches the subject of her mom. Turns out her room is literally right above the one that they're staying in, but nowadays is just used for storage, he says. After seeing a bunch of cows and piggies, they venture to the upper loft area. Margot stops to snap a picture and nearly plummets through a hole and right into a pokey thrasher down below. Phew, that was close. Watch your step around here, I guess. She chats with other girls about her mom, and word is that she hooked up with someone outside of the community, which I would imagine didn't go over well with them. They have a grand old time at dinner, and Jacob and Margot both give kind words about the other, her beaming, "This is a special moment." Dale claps, but no one else does, stammering, "Whoops, I thought that was a clap moment." I thought it was too. Some kids come out and sing in German, everyone pounding on the table to the beat and really getting into it. Well, guess that's all you got around here entertainment-wise, but she's loving it here. I mean, can you remember the last time you didn't look at your phone during dinner? Everyone is so present. Their Jenny later fails, and Chris sets out into the snow to fix it. He gets it going and is startled by a kid appearing there, mumbling to himself. Jacob brushes it off as him just being a sleepwalker, and good thing that he was out here. The kid might have frozen to death otherwise. In the morning, Margot isn't feeling well, Dale blaming it on the clear air. She then brings up hearing noises from the room up above, as though someone was walking, but no one else heard anything. The others are still cagey when her mom's name, Sarah, is mentioned, which weirdly one kid has named her doll after. She brings up the connection, and the girl tells her that Sarah is still here, but doesn't like her, and stomps off before elaborating further. More thumping upstairs wakes Margot up, and she decides this time to get a closer look. She sees the door is wide open, its big old lock hanging free. She shakily ascends the stairs and finds a bed there, the creaking continuing. She digs through the dresser and finds an old tin filled with letters from Sarah with some mention about a cult. Uh-oh. A drawer launches itself out, exposing a hidden door behind it. She slides it away and reveals a tiny door. Uh-oh, you know in horror movies those are never a good sign. I even had one in Paranormal Activity 3. She discovers a little room back there and a strange, almost water-stained looking drawing of a two-headed monster of some kind. Jacob comes in and she quickly hides under the bed. There's more thumping, and he gasps, muttering in German before leaving in a hurry. Well, I guess he didn't like whatever he saw. The creaks continue, and Margot pans around the room seeing nothing until a weight plops down on the bed right above her. She's able to sneak away, hurrying back downstairs, but finds a door locked. She goes to the window and briefly see a figure in the reflection, but when spinning around, she's alone. And well, now there's obviously some kind of weird creature thing going on around here. Showing the boys the footage the next day, Chris is dubious that it's a person. It must be some kind of lens distortion or something, right? Yeah, that makes faces out of thin air. Dale, on the other hand, bemoans that he hates creepy old farms. They're always haunted. Margot is more than convinced, with the clues piling up, that something is going on with her mom. So they set up an interview with Jacob to finally hopefully get some concrete answers. He details that she was not a fan of their community's way of life and was more of a free spirit. This turned dark as she got older, and after several failed attempts to take her own life, wound up pregnant by a boy in town. They suspect that she did it to spite their ways of life, and it worked, as she was shunned by the group, forced to work, sleep, and eat alone. He believes this might have driven her away completely in the end, and because they don't allow children out of wedlock, Sarah was forced to give the child away. Margot calls this horrible, but he argues that he loved his daughter Sarah, but she was selfish. That was her sickness, he proclaims. Chris agrees that what they did was pretty shitty, but she ultimately feels that it was for the best, so she didn't have to grow up in this dump. Remembering back to what the little girl said, Margot truly believes that her mom is still here. A kind of strange feeling is telling her this, obvious that she cannot deny. More secrets are soon unearthed when Chris takes his drone out for a spin to get some sweet aerial shots, and when flying over the woods nearby, they give away to an ominous looking church. Realizing that must have been where they were going that first night, they hike to the building with a sign out front reading, "So far, no further." According to Google Translate at least, Dale easily picks the lock, and they're just about to step inside until Jacob shows up, deriding them for entering a place of worship with cameras and shit, and orders them back to the house for lunch. Oh, you know the good stuff's gotta be in there. It looks more and more that some kind of misfortune has befallen the community. Chris asks an older lady to be on camera, and she's just staring off into space. While peeling potatoes, she's so checked out that she's been flaying her hand for quite some time, just slicing the skin right off. That is a sharp peeler for sure. This dinner is a little more tense than last time. Everyone's sitting in silence, clanging away. This strangeness also spreads to the animals. Margot awoken to the sounds of shrieking from the barn. They sneak to the upper level to look, spotting everyone gathered around a goat. One cuts at it with a knife, and they pull out a two-headed baby. They bash the abomination with a shovel, causing Margot to nearly lose her shit and get them caught. They recognize that whatever this is spreading. It's the children first, then the old. We have to do it now. Whatever it is involves their secret church. As they follow the group, they're wondering why they're bringing the baby's body there. Must be some kind of sacrifice, right? They try to talk about all this with Sam, and he's upset at them for sneaking around where they weren't supposed to. They're his guests, after all. Even though he does seem more on their side than the others, the gang knows better at this point. And when Sam is left behind to babysit him, they use Dale as a distraction to get back to the church and see what's inside. They're immediately confused, as there are no pews, but a series of paintings on the ground really start filling us in on their history. There's mention of a demon Asmodeus, and it's to him that they are giving these sacrifices, to stave off the bad luck of the village. But it's not working anymore for some reason from what we've seen. Noticing a wonky board, Chris thinks something is underneath the pulpit. They are able to easily slide it away, revealing a trapdoor and a long tunnel in the floor. Must be where they tossed the goat corpse. Of course she has to see what's down there, and luckily they have a pretty sophisticated jacket and pulley system to get down there with ease. She's compelled to keep going even after becoming overwhelmed by a foul smell. There's also some crosses jammed in the rocks on the way down as she keeps rappelling closer to the bottom. She becomes stuck for a moment, seeing a room down there, along with hearing faint groaning and chains rattling. She's had enough, shouting to be pulled up, noticing bones and other bits of gore around. Replaying the footage and hearing the odd sound, she's convinced something is down there. Understanding they're throwing the goats and whatnot to feed whatever it is, with potential danger looming ever closer, they have a wrench thrown in the works when they find out that their van has suddenly stopped working, meaning they're not going to be getting out of here anytime soon. Things quickly take an even more sinister turn when Margot searches Jacob's room, and in a locked closet discovers a computer with the internet and a camera and everything hidden in there. Through emails, she learns that she was actually set up from the very beginning, seeing a conversation between Sam and Jacob about her coming. She explains to Chris that Sam actually left to find her. He never actually left the community. He's been working for them the whole time. They discuss further in private that the emails went back over a year before Sam reached out. They also worryingly have tons of personal info on her, like her class schedule and address, again clarifying that they have actually been seeking her out from the beginning for some specific nefarious purpose. She's more than ready to get out of Dodge, but with no car, no phone, and the closest town 30 miles away, that is gonna prove difficult. Chris promises that they'll head into town tomorrow to get a battery for the van, but they'll have to stick around until then. Yet later that night, the activity is taken to frightening new heights, as Margot is awoken by more odd noises, spotting the door opening on its own. She tries many times to rouse the boys, but they are completely out, not even remotely responsive, and perhaps are potentially drugged. She spies several folks out the window, staring back up at her. She gets up and closes the door. It busts itself back open, and she's knocked to the ground. She's then lifted into the air, hearing more growling that goes quiet, then also distinctly hearing a person faintly whispering. Then a bit later, a black ghostly figure emerges in the doorframe for a moment before walking away. That's kind of weird. The boys awake in the morning to Margot staring out the window in a daze, drawing a circle in the condensation. Alarmingly, there's a massive blood stain on the bed and ceiling, even making out footprints up there, and it appears that the trail of blood is emanating from her. A local doc gives her the once-over and gives the unconvincing explanation that she's just exhausted and having an especially strong menstrual cycle. hospital. Yeah, sure, she just like blasted onto the ceiling because of her menstrual cycle. That makes total sense. The guys aren't so sure he's legit either, but he promises that if she gets worse, they'll take her right to the hospital. With nothing else to do, they set out on the very long road to town to get the van fixed. Luckily, not too far out on the road, they stumble across a mail truck, and the friendly postal worker is happy to give them a ride. He also has some disturbing information regarding the supposed Amish community they've been staying at. They in fact aren't Amish at all, and are kind of hiding in plain sight amongst other Amish people, but he doesn't know much more. Once they make it to the general store, as well as the internet, Chris recalls the name Asmodeus from the church, and it's just a Google search away to uncover the Balin family's secret identity. Exposition dump time! Asmodeus is a demonic prince of lust, suffering, and wrath, an overlord of the 9 levels of hell, and a prince amongst demons. Pretty pedigree, dude. Then there is the tale of a small Norwegian village many years ago, whose fate sounds strikingly similar to that of the farm. They were taken over by a pestilence, causing their crops and livestock to die out. Soon after, neighbor turned against neighbor in horrific acts of violence, and the whole tragic outcome was blamed on the work of Asmodeus. The downtrodden villagers turned to the so-called White Witch for help. She was able to trap the demon inside of a chosen woman of God, which was able to ensnare the powerful entity. So you basically put the demon in a lady to keep it from fucking your shit up with your cord and stuff. This curse of sorts traveled down the bloodline, daughter to daughter, and was able to keep Asmodeus from being unleashed upon the world. After all that, it's pretty obvious why the group wanted Margot so desperately. She's the next in the bloodline after her mother to contain the demon. When they return to the farm, we see their master plan is already in motion. Dale goes off to tend with the van, while Chris goes inside for Margot and their belongings. Yet it's strangely empty in there. All their stuff is just gone and there's no sign of Margot. He comes across Sam in the hallway murmuring to himself, and then he pipes up that women are the most powerful creatures on earth. This is why it's his sister's duty to hold this burden. They are the only ones strong enough to hold him back. He ominously states it's time and urges him to not leave the house until the bell stops chiming. Chris is unfazed, setting out into the blustery night, and makes his way to the church. Jacob is waiting there with a gun and tries to help him understand the necessity of their plan. If they don't transfer the demon into Margot, it will be set loose and is able to jump from person to person and will kill us all. The gun goes off and Chris tackles him. Jacob ironically chokes him with a nearby Bible, but Chris clocks him good, sending him tumbling down the hole. There is nowhere else to go but down, hearing Margot's pain screeches echoing below. And then he hears that same faint hissing and groaning. He finds an older lady with candles all around her, praying over Margot. He just straight up throws the woman off of her, and in the process knocks out the quite important salt barrier. The lady attempts to put it back in place, but once it's broken, you're out of luck, pal. This is consistently used to contain spirits or demons, but when the line is broken, you're usually screwed. The lady complains that he doesn't know what he's doing, and Margot shoots awake, then spotting a withered creature sitting on what looks like a bone throne. Well, it looks like mommy is still around after all. Based on what we know about Asmodeus, it seems like Sarah's vessel was able to keep the demon at bay for some time, but ultimately they physically start changing into the demon, hence why things have been getting bad in the village. Hence the necessity again for Margot to step in as the new vessel, so they can stop the pestilence from spreading and begin their cycle anew. Sarah takes out the lady quite horrifically, and the pair take off, hearing her roaring behind them. Unfortunately, there is no way back up. That is until our ever stalwart Dale arrives, confused about what's going on. Chris helps Margot go up first, still freaking over whatever that thing was. As she slowly goes up, we hear metal clinking, and the creature is freed. He flings on the vest, and Sarah crawls after him, Chris just barely getting out of there in the nick of time. They hear the pulley going again, knowing the creature is on its way out of the hole after them. They struggle to see out in the blizzard, catching a glimpse of the creature as it gets Dale, including a nice slow-mo shot where his face is ripped right off. Woo-wee. That's why you pay extra for those cameras, to get that 120 frame slow-mo. It's beautiful. They hoof it to the barn with the creature on their trail, banging on the barricaded door and roaring. They sneak upstairs as the creature makes it inside and shut off the camera light for a moment. Sarah appears and smacks Chris good, causing him to drop the camera. Margot grabs a hook and gets her mom's attention. "Look at me," she cries, asking if she remembers her. She starts getting closer, assuring her, "It's me, your daughter. I'm here now, Mom. It was just a ruse," and she jams the hook in Sarah's neck. She's definitely not happy about it and tries to drag her down a hole. Margot is able to kick her off, and Sarah plummets onto the thrasher that she almost fell onto a few days earlier. Again, watch out for for holes around this place. They get to their feet and make it to the van, but yeah, guess what? No keys. They're on Dale's destroyed corpse. Once they fetch them, the church bell starts ringing once more and starts getting more rapid, tolling extremely quickly. This seems to indicate that the feared Asmodeus-fueled madness is at hand. The entire place engulfed in flame. Another person pops up yowling with his eyes gouged out, and another dude is just casually strolling by completely on fire. Well, go jump in the snow or something. Back to the van. It predictably won't turn over despite Chris's chanting of "come on, baby." Crazed citizens attack, smashing the windows, and the engine finally turns over. They crash out of the barn and plow right into a dude firing at them. Driving off into the night, Margot lets out a blood-curdling scream, which is probably a reference to the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yes, they do escape, but the evil is far from done for, as we see. Sometime later, a cop comes across the grisly aftermath. The action is long over now, with bodies littering the snow. He's lured to the barn, hearing what sounds like a baby crying, and comes to Samuel, seeing he's the one making the weird noises, and now understanding that he's the demon's newest vessel. As Jacob laid out, if they don't complete the ritual, then Asmodeus can jump from body to body at will. So kind of thanks to Chris and Margot, the evil has been set free upon the world. Sam makes the officer turn the gun on himself as another cop shows up and he does the exact same thing to him. He jacks his car and sets out on the snowy road. Knowing the evil is set loose, there's no containing this thing. So things are pretty open-ended if the filmmakers choose to do a follow-up. Is Sam gonna hunt down Margot since he knows that she's the only one that can stop him? Or conversely, is she going to hunt him down to put an end to the evil for good? Either way, it looks like the world at large is probably pretty effed, which really again is thanks to Margot and Chris. If you had just done the ritual, none of this would have happened. Was it worth saving one lady and dooming countless others? I'm not so sure. One other thing I was kind of confused about after watching this is it seems like there's two things going on here. What's technically a spirit, as well as Sarah chained up in the hole terrorizing Margot. From what we see, it appears that the spirit is actually Asmodeus outside of his vessel and is trying to prevent the transferring ritual from occurring. That's why it attacked her and the blood and all that. He knew if he could destroy the vessel, he could finally be free. But also, thanks to the kids, it happened anyway. So, you know, win-win. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of this explained video on Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. While it is a bit disappointing that it didn't really continue on with the series story setup so far, I get why they went the direction they did. And hey, if there's a sequel, that will definitely feel very different than what we've seen over and over again with the series. Guess we'll have to see how this one does. I don't know how they determine that, how many people watched it on Paramount Plus, because it's not in theaters. It's not. And don't forget, before we go, you can send me requests for any movies or TV shows you'd like to see me explain by sending them my way on any of my social media accounts at FoundFlix. What did you think of Paranormal Activity Next of Kin? What would you like to see in a sequel? The return of Toby, perhaps? At least Katie would be good, right? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time.